The silence in my London flat had wrapped itself around me like a lover who refused to let go. It lingered in the faint scent of Alexander's cologne on his forgotten shirts, danced in the dust that settled on his favorite armchair, and whispered through the empty halls where laughter once echoed. 2 years had passed since Alex's sudden accident stole him from this world, yet the ache felt as raw as the morning I woke to an empty side of the bed. Some nights I could still feel the ghost of his arms around me, the warmth of his breath against my neck, pulling me into dreams I never wanted to wake from. My name is Sophia Bennett. At 31, I had become a shadow of the woman I once was, trapped in memories, therapy sessions, and the polite concern of friends who no longer knew what to say. The city pulsed with life beyond my Kensington window, but inside these walls, time had stopped on that devastating Tuesday when my heart shattered into pieces too small to mend. I moved through days like a ghost, touching surfaces he once touched, sleeping in sheets that still carried his essence, longing for a connection that death had cruelly severed. It was another Tuesday. Exactly 730 days later, when something primal stirred within me, a desperate need for companionship, for anything to drown out the screaming quiet that haunted my every breath. I found myself standing outside the Battersea dog's home, rain misting my face as barks and whimpers filled the air like a chorus of lost souls. I walked past cages of playful poodles and eager retrievers, feeling nothing but the weight of expectation. Then, in the farthest corner, I saw him. He didn't bark or leap like the others. A majestic German shepherd with fur the color of gathering storm clouds sat with regal poise, his intelligent eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that stole my breath. He offered only a slow, deliberate blink, as if acknowledging a kindred spirit in pain. The volunteer shared his story quietly. His owner passed away 6 months ago. He's been waiting patiently. Those words pierced straight through my broken heart. Without hesitation, I signed the papers. His name was Thor. Those first weeks with Thor transformed the flat in ways I hadn't imagined possible. His large, powerful frame moved through the rooms with graceful purpose, the soft patting of his paws on hardwood floors, the contented sighs as he settled at my feet. These small sounds began mending the torn edges of my soul, stitching warmth back into a home that had grown cold. He learned my rhythms with uncanny intuition, sensing my moods before I could name them. When nightmares of the accident jolted me awake, his warm head would already rest gently on my chest, his steady breathing anchoring me. Pulling me back from the edge of despair, tears still came often, unannounced and unrelenting. He would lick them away with tender care, his rough tongue a reminder that I was not entirely alone. But there were subtleties I noticed gradually, how he positioned himself protectively between me and the door when anxiety tightened its grip, how his gaze held a depth that felt almost human, stirring something deep and unspoken within me. One rainy evening, as I finally gathered courage to sort through Alex's belongings, a task avoided for too long, years' grief crashed over me like a violent wave. I collapsed to the floor, sobbing with a ferocity that frightened even me. Thor approached slowly, but instead of his usual nuzzle, he sat facing me, eyes locked with mine in silent understanding. Then, clear as a lover's whisper in the dark, a voice filled the room. "Sophia, breathe." My heart stopped. The flat was empty save for us. Thor tilted his head, and in the dim light, his eyes gleamed with impossible wisdom. I shook my head, convincing myself it was hallucination born of exhaustion and sorrow. But the seed was planted, taking root in the fertile soil of my loneliness. Over the following days and weeks, the whispers grew more frequent always in moments of deepest vulnerability. Soft encouragements when depression threatened to swallow me whole. "You're stronger than this pain." Gentle warnings as anxiety spiraled. "Let it pass." My love, they never came when others visited, and Thor was always near. Strange anomalies began to surface. Books on healing and resilience appeared on my bedside table, pages open to passages that spoke directly to my heart. Alex's favorite jazz album would play softly from the stereo, though I hadn't touched it. At first, I blamed memory lapse as grief plays cruel tricks on the mind. After all, but doubt lingered, growing like ivy through cracks in my denial. Why did these things happen only when I was alone with Thor? Why did his presence feel so profoundly comforting, like arms wrapping around me in the night? I began watching him more closely, noting how he seemed to anticipate my needs, the way he'd bring his head to my lap just as tears welled, or stand guard when thunder echoed the storms in my soul. Each incident chipped away at rational explanation, leaving room for a hope I barely dared entertain. The night everything changed began innocently enough. I decided to clear Alex's side of the wardrobe, a mountain I could no longer avoid climbing. Surrounded by his clothes, each carrying faint traces of his cologne, memories flooded back: his laughter in our kitchen, the way his fingers traced patterns on my skin in quiet moments, the warmth of his body pressed against mine on cold nights, holding his favorite university sweater to my face, breathing him in. The dam finally broke. A raw, guttural scream tore from my throat as I hurled clothes across the room in blind, raging grief. Through tear-blurred vision, I saw Thor watching from the doorway, his expression unreadable yet deeply knowing. Then, as clear as if Alex stood beside me, his voice filled the air. "My love, please stop." I froze, every muscle locking in shock. That voice, exactly his timbre, his gentle cadence, the way he said, "my love," that always made my heart flutter. Slowly, I turned to Thor. His eyes held something impossible, something that made my breath catch in recognition. "Alex?" I whispered, voice trembling with desperate hope. Thor approached with deliberate grace, no eager tail wag, no typical canine enthusiasm. He moved like a man comfortable in his skin, sat before me, gaze level with mine. Then the voice came again, emanating unmistakably from him. "I never really left you, Soph." The world spun. I stumbled back against the wall, legs giving way as reality fractured. "This isn't happening," I gasped. I finally lost my mind. "Look at the photo," the voice urged gently. My eyes darted to our wedding picture on the dresser, the one where Alex had whispered a private promise just before the shutter clicked, words known only to us. Tears streamed down my face as impossible truth unfolded over hours of hushed conversation. Alex explained how a fragment of his consciousness lingered after death, eventually finding refuge in Thor's form. He'd guided events to bring us together, waiting for my heart to be ready. The rational mind screamed impossibility, but my aching heart clutched this miracle fiercely. After 2 years of unbearable emptiness, having any piece of Alex back felt like breathing after drowning, like salvation wrapped in fur and knowing eyes. For weeks, we lived in this extraordinary reality. By day, Thor behaved as an exceptionally intelligent dog. But in the private sanctuary of our home, Alex spoke through him, sharing memories that made me laugh through tears, offering comfort that soothed the deepest wounds. Filling silence with his presence once more, I should have questioned it. I should have feared it. But the joy of hearing his voice again, feeling his love surround me, was intoxicating. Nights became sacred, Thor curling beside me on the bed, Alex's words whispering endearments that sent shivers of remembered intimacy through me. The subtle sensuality of his presence through Thor's warm body pressed against mine stirred long-buried longings, reminding me I was still alive, still capable of deep connection. Yet slowly, almost imperceptibly, the dynamic shifted. Comfort began feeling like subtle control. Loving guidance edged toward commands. It started small: disapproval when I mentioned coffee with friends. "Do you really need to go?" A heavy silence when I spoke of returning to work. Then one evening, preparing for an office function, the voice commented coldly, "Ethan from your office looks at you differently." My hand froze on my necklace. "He's married, Alex, just a colleague." "I don't want you going." The words hung stark and possessive. This wasn't the Alexander I'd married, the man who celebrated my independence, encouraged my dreams. "That's not fair," I said softly. Thor's body stiffened. The voice returned colder. "After everything I've done to stay with you, this is how you repay me?" Guilt crashed over me like a wave. He had defied death for our love. Who was I to question? I canceled the event. Then the next. My world shrank again, not from grief this time, but from someone else's expectations woven into love. The breaking point came when my sister visited from Edinburgh. Over dinner, she voiced gentle concern about my isolation, suggesting proximity to family. After she left, the voice turned venomous. "She's always tried to come between us." Fear prickled my skin. "She's worried about me, Alex. You don't need anyone but me." The hiss sent ice through my veins. That night, as I lay in bed, Thor jumped up and positioned his large body between me and the door, blocking escape. "What are you doing?" My heart raced. "Keeping you safe. Keeping you mine." The possessiveness terrified me. This wasn't love. It was obsession distorted by unnatural existence. Summoning courage from depths I didn't know remained, I stood. Alex, if you truly love me, you'll let me go. Silence stretched endlessly. Then Thor's body relaxed, moving aside. The voice emerged heavy with sadness. You're right. This isn't living for either of us. Morning brought unusual quiet. Thor watched with intelligent but empty eyes. Alex? I whispered. Only a soft whine answered. The connection had severe doubt. I never learned what transpired that night, whether Alex found peace or simply withdrew. Thor remained a loyal companion, but just a dog. The silence returned, yet it felt different. Clean, open, ready for new beginnings. Some goodbyes must happen twice. True love never cages the beloved, even from beyond the grave. The greatest act of love is release. Even when it breaks your heart anew, because some bonds, beautiful as they are, were meant only for this life. If this story stirred something deep within you, the ache of lost love, the warmth of unexpected miracles, or the quiet strength of letting go, share your own moments of heartbreak and healing in the comments below. Like if you've ever felt a presence lingering, and subscribe for more tales that touch the soul. What would you have done in Sophia's place?